up, Rotogrinders? Dean here, Dean78904. That is the daily fantasy handle around the industry. It's Grinderslive here at Rotogrinders.com. Back at it on a Monday. Awesome slate today. We're talking about a pre-show 7-gamer. That's kind of the sweet spot for me. I think a lot of people like that. Not too many, just enough. And that's kind of what that's going to be all week long. So it's going to be a good week for sure. I believe no slate has less than 6 or more than 9 games going down. So the schedule is certainly flattened out for us down the stretch. I guess we're at the quarter pole now as far as this slate, as far as this season. I believe 7. What are we closing in on? 60 plus games at this point? I think so. All right. Going to be bringing in let's see who's going to be batting first. Andre, is that your dog? Is it yapping?
That wasn't my dog today.
That was mine.
Are you in a different location, TJ, or you just kind of changed your setup or where you're at?
So same location for now for the next month, but I take possession of my new house purchased by some nice DFS winnings in a month. So we're packing everything up. It's boxes everywhere. I'm just making do with what I have right now.
Awesome. Congratulations. Are you staying in the same general area?
Same city, but opposite side of the city. But like our city only has 250K people, so it's not that far.
With 250,000 people, that's a pretty good sized city. That's a good amount of people, isn't it, for a city?
Yeah, but we can get anywhere in the city in about 20 minutes. So it's the opposite side, but it doesn't feel that far away. What
is the current temperature? Is it Toque weather right now?
It is Toque weather if you're outside, but not indoor Toque weather. It's probably about minus 10 Celsius. So I think that's probably like about 15 Fahrenheit, maybe like 5 Fahrenheit.
Jesus Lord. Christ.
Not too bad. It's a nice day today. It's sun shining.
There you go.
I got out and walked the dogs.
Andre, you're up there in New York still, I believe?
Yes, and I hate it. The weather is horrible. It's cold. It is just, I have covers underneath me right now because it's so cold.
You don't want to move and be TJ's neighbor or by his old house? That doesn't sound like very appealing at -5?
No, I hate the cold. Just put me somewhere warm. Put me in Florida. Put me in Arizona, Texas, somewhere, even California for all I care. Somewhere where I just don't have to deal with the cold anymore and the snow.
Yeah, I guess I'm a Florida boy, so I'm kind of the same way. I like it chilly, but like -5, get out of town. Like I can't talk to that. That's absolutely ridiculous. Andre, we got a 7-gamer tonight. You said you felt pretty good about this slate pre-show. It's kind of a sprint slate. We have 2 games starting at 7, several games starting at 7:30, the rest starting at 8. Every game locks an hour into the slate. Not a ton of information we're waiting for. Of course, it's the NBA, but I guess Freddie VanVleet's kind of the big one. Front half of a back-to-back. He is currently questionable with his knee. Toronto does play at 7:30, so hopefully we get that news. Otherwise, most of the stuff is out there. We saw Brogdon rolled out in the back-to-back as well too. But what are your thoughts as far as tonight's game? Overarching thoughts?
I think it's interesting. I think it can go 1-2 ways. I see ways where you can use Giannis and win the slate, or you cannot need Giannis and take it down. So I'm interested in seeing what we're gonna dive into and what takes we have. I have a very tight pool today. Really dove into and did some research on some things, and I'm hoping it pays off well and with a big payday and a seat to the live final.
Oh, you're chasing a live final seat. Oh man,
I'm chasing it all year, man. It's just
it's a bankroll suck, man. If you don't hit it, obviously you know that. Hopefully you take it. And have you finished second or third? Steak knives?
Paying too many times to finish second.
Oh, it's the worst. Yeah.
Before I even knew what I was doing when I was 19 years old, and I guess I don't even know if that was okay to play FanDuel yet, but I was Canadian and so it was legal here. But before, I didn't even know what contest I was entering, and I finished on one lineup second place third place in a live final tournament that gave out 2 seats. And oh my goodness, it was so disappointing when I realized what I would have won had I actually got it.
Yeah,
it's funny you say that, by the way. Pepsi, old friend Pepsi from Canada, many years ago, won a live final seat. And he didn't even know what he won. He's like, "What is this?" I won a trip to. He's Canadian as well. He's like, "Oh, I won a trip to a live final for baseball." Okay, he had no clue that was even. You just click on buttons, you sign up for things, and
yeah, whatever. Exactly.
It's funny how that works out. Hopefully, Andre, get yourself a live final seat. Where are you playing for that? On FanDuel, on DK? Well, where's the big contest tonight for?
Tonight I'm playing on FanDuel. I normally would have just played on. I would normally do both sites, but tonight I'm just going to strictly dive into FanDuel. Tomorrow maybe dive into some DK and hopefully try to get one there. But hopefully, we'll see how it pans out. Yeah, I really want to go to New Orleans though, really, really bad.
It's a good spot for a live final. That seems like it'd be a fun spot for sure. I spent a couple Mardi Gras there during spring break. Ooh, nostalgia. TJ, how about yourself? What are you focusing on? FanDuel, DK, both?
FanDuel for me. Unlike Andre, my research hasn't been as deep today. I just didn't realize I was coming on the show until quite a bit later, but I was still planning on playing. I'm always a FanDuel guy, and so I mix DK in every now and then, but I got one big FanDuel lineup in tonight, and then I might mix and match a couple other things in too.
Yeah, balancing it out tonight. I'm focusing only on DK actually. And hey, if you are playing on FanDuel tonight, I'm not sure if you're going to throw your one lineup, TJ, in the FanDuel single entry series. Yeah, added value. It's a good contest as is. I believe tonight is the $100 entry. Yeah, it's $100 entry this week. $50,000 Monday NBA windmill. You can find it in the FanDuel lobby. I'm not sure if it's sold out just yet or not. But Rotogrinders sponsors it, and they take your top 4 of 6 scores. And if you finish number 1 there, you move on to another contest with additional added value. It's like one of the better contests on FanDuel as is with added value. So there you go. TJ, you said you're in there?
80 spots left. I just checked.
There you go. Yeah. And it's the rake is better on that contest than it is most contests. You download the Google Chrome extension. You can find this out. It's probably, 11 or 12%. You're probably looking at it right now, but is that about right? Do I sound correct? It's less.
I didn't have that one up. That one up.
Fair enough. All right. Do you have any overarching thoughts here, TJ, as far as the slate? It is pretty interesting. Like Andre mentioned, Giannis, and Giannis is projected to score, I think, 9 or 10 more points than anybody else playing tonight. Of course, there's some other good options out there, Ja and Murray and SGA, the guards right there, as is. Centers, not so much. There's no Jokic, there's no Embiid. But I guess that's kind of one of the forks in the road tonight is Giannis, especially on FanDuel, where it's even harder to fade him, I think.
Yeah, big time. He's the crown jewel tonight, and the ownership reflects it. So it's going to be tough to get away from him, but we were talking about this a little bit off stream. This Indiana Orlando game's pretty nice. The Sacramento OKC game has potential for a lot of shenanigans. So there might be some ways to pivot off this still.
All right, let's see if there's any potential shenanigans in the Minnesota Cleveland game. That's the first one we're going to talk about at 7 o'clock. 218.5 is the total in this game. Minnesota is a 3-point favorite in Cleveland. Of course, Cleveland is without a bunch of their guards, obviously. No Garland. Sexton's been out pretty much all year. LeVert is still out. Rondo is still out. Goodwin is the last man standing. We've seen Markkanen in the last couple games since going back to the All-Star break playing, 25, 35 minutes. And we've seen Kevin Love. His minutes have fallen back. I think he's an interesting tournament play, especially on FanDuel, where his price has reflected the minutes just being, depleted of late. But I don't see why. I think he's a curious play for tournaments. I'll throw it to you, Andre. Start wherever you want. As far as Minnesota, Cleveland, what sticks out for you this game?
This game, I'm more interested. Well, it's a lot of guys I do think are interested in tournaments. For the Cleveland side, this game should be competitive, go down to the wire, in my opinion. Even without the guard play, Cleveland, just because the bigs for Cleveland are just so good, and to me are elite compared to Minnesota. So I definitely love for tournaments getting a guy like Kevin Love in there, especially with his price being 4,500 on FanDuel. He's to me an excellent tournament play. Someone I think is going to come in. Obviously, we have him coming in at 22%, which I think is pretty healthy for ownership for him. Brandon Goodwin is obviously going to be the main priority play for Cleveland, just because he's a point guard running for the team at 5,300. I'm tempted to be a little bit at the field, not a little bit under the field on him, just because I know the defense is going to be a little bit there with Pat Beverly and possibly Anthony Edwards if he gets on him a little bit. But I still like him as a good overall play. And a guy like marketing is a guy that interests me too, more so than he has before in the past, just because of the usage is going to be up. But also the price, and then the fact that he's played 30 minutes his first 2 games back. I wasn't expecting that, so that kind of threw me a little bit off the guard and off loop. So I think he's a great tournament play as well. And you can't forget about Mobley and Jared Allen. Those 2 bigs are always good. So there's a lot to really like on the Cleveland side. Just more so, I was sprinkling on like 1 or 2 pieces in the tournament. But if you do have like 2 pieces, you definitely probably should want to run it back with someone from Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the most popular piece in this game is probably going to be Goodwin. Look, 33% projected ownership on FanDuel at 5.3K. Of course, he's no longer 3 or 4K. The price has moved up, as he should, but probably not enough. We're projecting 35 minutes out of him, 31% ownership as well on DK at 5.2K, about a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. Not necessarily a great matchup against Beverly, but a good environment against Minnesota. They play. It's a pretty good environment to play against them as far as yielding fantasy points. Well, where are you at on that, TJ? As far as Goodwin, the minutes are going to be there. Pretty much nobody behind him. Tim Frazier they signed. I don't know how much run he's going to get, but they're pretty depleted there in the backcourt. Is that good chalk or is that bad chalk as far as Goodwin when you're talking tournaments?
When you're talking tournaments, I don't think there's any problem getting underweight on that, just like Dre talked about. And it's a weird game because Cleveland has the 2nd lowest total on the night, but yet we have 6 players who are all projecting for 5x median value. So like they're in a very weird spot. And I think Love is a great spot for tournaments. I definitely would like getting overweight to him if I'm playing lots of lineups. Just playing one, I don't know if I'm going to get there. But all of these guys, even on the Minnesota side, like if D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards are going to be single digit ownership, if I'm playing 150, that's something I want to get over the field on.
We got the doorbell. We'll give you a second. You got to get the door, or the dog's going to go nuts, or it's just Amazon or something like that. It sounds like, well, they're probably going to push the button again, aren't they? Because you're not showing up. Yeah, it's interesting because, Minnesota yields a lot of rebounds. So I think we could see a potential like 17, 18 rebound game at a guy like Jared Allen or something like that. So he's got to be in my tournament pool as well. Obviously on FanDuel, you're playing on FanDuel. If you get on the right side of those stocks, you can get 6 or 7 on the right night as well too. Andre, I never really know. We always have this discussion as far as what to do with Minnesota's, Cat and Edwards and Russell and how to decipher which is the best option. Of course, the matchup against Cleveland is not ideal. Good defensive team. Do you have a preference amongst those big 3?
My preference, I hate to say it, is D'Angelo Russell. Just because of the guard play. Like I said, there's not really many. There's not going to be really any resistance at the guard position. So a guy like D'Angelo Russell who can get it from the outside, shoot the threes more consistently than probably more consistent than Anthony Edwards, in my opinion. I think he's someone I definitely want to try to target more of. And we know Cat shoots threes too, but I think Jared Allen, and you got with a guy like Mobley, who is mobile enough to be out there on the perimeter and play good defense with Cat, is why I think D'Lo is someone I would lean more towards in tournaments here today. But they're all going to be low owned, so to me they're all good plays. And definitely in a mini game sack environment, I would love to get them all for sure.
Yeah, we have
and another good spot to look at too for that Minnesota side, where they're going to need the size tonight, especially on FanDuel. 4,300 power forward eligible Jared Vanderbilt. That's a nice salary saver tonight, because as long as he stays out of foul trouble, they're going to need him out there.
So it's funny. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like FanDuel specific, and he's also a guy that not a big usage guy, but he can get those stocks on the boards. But 20%, he's the biggest ownership guy on FanDuel, big as the price, obviously, salary cap reasons. Are you okay playing Vanderbilt at 20% ownership? It's not a huge number, but not ideal probably, but it's fine, right?
Yeah, it's like, especially if I can get different elsewhere on my team, I don't mind it one bit. But going back to these wing guys, Russell and Edwards, if they're staying 5% and 3% owned on FanDuel, I get that it's a bad matchup, but these guys both have the potential to just have 50, 60 point ceilings on any given night. And so while I don't think I'd want to play them together, I definitely like getting at least double the field on that in tournaments.
You're getting pretty good prices too. Like, and you consider their salary for the season, obviously matchup not great, but I think it's kind of baked in. Edwards has been slumping of late too, for what it's worth. Edwards is 7K on FanDuel, 7.3. But yeah, both of them looking at less than 5%. And it's the same deal on DK. We're seeing Cat at 3% ownership, Edwards at 2, Russell at 10. He's 7.2, so that kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's a pretty good slate with pretty good options, and the matchup's rough. So it kind of makes sense as far as that being reflective in the ownership. Anything else that's worth note? Anything worth pointing out here, Andre, as far as Minnesota, Cleveland, or shall we move on?
Nope, we can move on.
You got anything else, TJ?
Chetty Osman, I think you can mix him into tournaments on DK where he's only 4,400. I was over the field on him the other night and it worked out pretty well. And I think he's probably the most likely to be Goodwin's backup to the one on top of his regular wing roles.
Yeah, that makes sense. We got a lot of big totals on this slate. One of them being Indiana, Orlando, 232.5 is the total there. Orlando is a 2.5 point favorite. Of course, we saw earlier today, Brogdon on the back-to-back has been ruled out. Lance Stevenson also not expected to play. Duarte should be good to go for what it's worth. Markelle Fultz expected back for Orlando, and I don't know if he's played the entire season. I would imagine, I think we have like 12 minutes or so for him. Not expected to play a ton here. Who was it pre-show? Was it you, Andre, talking about Halliburton?
Yeah.
Tell me why Halliburton's the play.
I think he's just a good play off of everyone going towards SGA if you wanted to just or DeJounte Murray. More so probably DeJounte Murray because he's in a tougher matchup against Minnesota. Just because of that right there, but also like he's gonna now, like we know that he's gonna have the ball in his hands majority of the times and not the whole game as a point guard. With Brogdon, I'm pretty sure he was probably sharing the backcourt a little bit and sharing the ball handling duties, but I look for there to be a lot more assist opportunities with him and also scoring opportunities as well. So to me, with him also controlling the tempo and the pace of the game, it is made for, to me, a great play today. Someone I think that we weren't looking at before today, and I think his price being at 9,200, people are going to be a little worried about playing him today, as opposed to and go to the other guys that are higher up, like I said, like a Shai or DeJounte. But Tyrese has just as much upside as those guys, and he's cheaper than both of them. So to me, I rather actually maybe not as much upside as DeJounte, but at least get close to it. But he definitely can get there in an up-tempo matchup as well. I think it's higher also than, this game is, well, it's not higher than the Spurs-Memphis game, but close enough, but definitely higher than the Sacramento game. So you might be inclined to want to use him to just, like I said, it's a tournament play compared to the other two for sure.
Last 15 games, they are the fastest team in all of basketball. That's Orlando. So you like that pace as well. And Orlando, as far as rostering their players, they're playing fast. They're facing Indiana, one of the worst defensive teams in all of basketball. So that's why, it's not a great, NBA product game, but it's a good DFS game for sure. You mentioned Halliburton, less than 10% projected ownership on FanDuel. We're looking at 9-ish. This stuff is fluid. This stuff will change, but as of right now, that's where we're at. And about 20% on DK, a little better price, a little more appealing at 8.6K. Oh man, where do we start here, TJ? Because I feel like Wendell Carter is a really, really good tournament play who's going to be kind of sort of lost in the slate. But Indiana on the inside's got nobody. They've lost a lot of size. I don't know if Gogo Batadze is in the rotation. If he's going to be available, it doesn't really matter. I don't know what side of this game you want to start on, or feel free to add on the Halliburton if you agree or disagree. But there are some interesting, appealing pieces in this game, and nobody's terribly expensive either for a game stack.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I like Halliburton more, and especially on DK where he's even cheaper. He's the type of guy that has the upside to match the stars, and the price doesn't go along with it. And Brissett is even cheaper on DK as well. These guys have some nicer prices there, but over on FanDuel where I'm playing, I really like going Halliburton and Duarte as kind of a mini stack for this side here, and then looking at the other side for, honestly, a number of these Orlando guys. What do you think with Fultz coming back? Does Fultz coming back scare you off of these Orlando guards at all? Even if like I'm not saying let's play Fultz, but does him getting 12 to 18 minutes like take you off of Suggs or Wagner or any of these guys, Anthony?
Like where do those minutes come from? Basically, is the question, right? Maybe does everybody just lose a couple? Does somebody get kicked out of the rotation? And like 12 minutes is kind of like a reasonable guess, maybe 15 minutes or something like that. We saw Hampton play good last game. Orlando's got a bunch of guys that are like good players, like there's like the 8th or 9th player on a team. That's kind of their problem. And the guys that are like good enough to get run, but not good enough to actually like help a team win. I think they want to develop Suggs, like why not? And maybe a slight hit on their cap, but if I like him, I like him. I'm not running away with Fultz all of a sudden being introduced. And who knows, he might get a DMPCD. Like, I don't know if he's going to play or not. That's possible too. Andre, what are your thoughts as far as Fultz coming back? How much does that hurt, if at all, the Orlando guys?
I think it definitely hurts the backcourt. And I'm trying to figure it out myself to figure out how much they're going to play. Even if it probably cut into a little bit of their minutes, probably I can see maybe like 4 to 5 minutes of each guy, as far as like a guy like Cole Anthony, or maybe they might take minutes from a guy like from Terrence Ross.
Yeah.
Who shouldn't really be playing for this team. It should have been like on a buyout market or something. But I just don't know. I'm really interested. Like, I'm gonna play some of the guards, but I'm gonna be like well under the field on them. I'm more intent, like I said, more inclined to play the front line guys like you said, Wendell Carter or even Mo Bamba in the limited minutes that he gets. Maybe a little bit of Franz Wagner, because he's more of a front court guy that's supposed to be a backcourt guy, than playing like a guy like Cole or Suggs, just because I don't know what's happening with that. And I probably want to see how it plays out first. Even though I want to have a little bit exposure, because the game environment is still going to be very up tempo and fast. Just not going to be overexposed to that side of the field of the game, I should say.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Those minutes mostly come from Ross and Harris, like two veterans that when Orlando is theoretically good, they're not going to be there. And like you said, like Ross shouldn't be there. Like he should be on like a team that where he can actually be useful for, a guy off the bench is like an instant scorer, that kind of thing. And I don't think Hampton gets a hit, because we saw him come back and play really well. And I think he earned some minutes. So I'm guessing he's going to get, whatever his run would or would not be. So Bamba, how many minutes is he going to play, Andre? That's a fun question.
Who knows? I hope like it was like 25. If it's 25 minutes, I'm confident him with his upside. But if it's not, then I'm going to be disappointed. But I'm assuming it's going to be around the 25 mark, like he's been the last 2 games. So I'm hoping for it, and then hoping for him to go off in this matchup.
He played 25 last game, and I believe he fouled out like at the 4-minute mark or something like that. So there was room for more, for what it's worth.
And if you don't like Bamba, like, we can't really keep our eyes closed on Okiki for that long. Like, obviously, yes, we don't want to just look at last game and be like, he had 50, we got to play him now. It's nothing like that. But the position that he's in right now, like, he's the backup 4, he's the backup 5, and when he's out there, he's very active. So he's definitely an interesting guy to keep an eye on, especially if you're playing lots of lineups.
Your favorite player on Orlando, TJ? And I guess we kind of brushed over Anthony, like he's there too, and you could play him, obviously. Do you have a favorite Magic player?
Probably Wagner.
Why is it Wagner?
Just because he's cheap enough. Like, I don't mind the price of any of these other guys, but Wagner's probably the one who is least likely to be impacted by Fultz in terms of from a minute standpoint. And I would rather, there's other expensive guys I want to pay up for, and I don't think I'm going to be finding myself in the mid 7K range too often.
Andre, if you're playing Halliburton, do you feel like obligated to run it back with somebody in Orlando?
No. Actually, because of the game environment, I do just because of the game environment, it's going to be fast paced. It's going to be competitive too. So I do feel I should maybe say I do kind of in a way, but it would mostly be like a guy like Wagner, Carter, or Mo Bamba for me. And hoping more so Wendell Carter to chase an upside game out of both of those guys. Let's see what we can get from them. Cole Anthony, I don't mind him at all. It's just I'm just really concerned with Fultz coming back and just, like I said, eating into the usage a little bit, but he's still worth the shot, definitely, in tournaments.
And
My issue-
Suggs for tournaments on DK, I don't mind either. There's only 5,400 there, and we haven't projected for sub 10%. So I don't mind Suggs in tournaments on DK.
And if you're game log watching, he was in severe foul trouble. They even played him in the first. I think he had 4 fouls in the first half. Like they played him, try to let him fight through it, and still didn't. Where he eventually got his 6th foul some point in the fourth quarter. But like that, yeah, it was just suppressed that way. My issue with Indiana is, like, again, look at our minutes. Like, Taylor is going to get 8 minutes, give or take. Bataze 12. Jackson is a good fantasy player, but like we don't know how much run he's going to get. Brissett and Smith, there's just too many guys, and nobody really separates himself. Andre, like, I don't know how to pick one of these Indiana bigs because it seems like there's nobody that's going to be featured necessarily.
Yeah, like I really want to go with Jackson. I really want to go with Isaiah Jackson today, but I just don't know if I could do it because I don't know. Like, even if he plays, like, we see what he does in 22 minutes and 20 minutes, and that's fine, that's great. But it's just, is that going to be something that's going to be consistently happening? Granted, they're going to need his body and his match probably against Orlando, which is good, but 6,200 it's a steep price to pay for a guy like that, but it might be worth some shots in like a large field tournament, like the $9, and see what happens. Especially
if he starts, 6'2" on FanDuel, 5'8" on DK. Like he's been a really good stock guy. 1.36 FanDuel points per minute. That's awesome. Like, but again, if he plays 22 minutes, that's kind of worthless.
And that's the thing. He's cheaper on DK, but I'd rather play Brissett over there, where he's also way cheaper on DK. So if I'm playing 150, he's in my pool, but I think I'd really struggle to get to him any other way.
Brissett for 7.5 on FanDuel. Get out of town. That's outrageous. No chance I would pay that. He's not even like a great fantasy point minute guy. 0.82 on the season. We didn't mention Buddy Hield. He's there. He's
sorry.
What do you got on Buddy?
Play him.
I think he's too expensive.
You think he's too with Brogdon being out? You think he's too expensive? That's 30 minutes a day that's going to go elsewhere to other guys. And Buddy might be. He's already probably playing a lot of minutes, but he could be even more of a recipient of them. And I just play him.
In a game stack, I don't mind it. It's just he only succeeds one way, and even if he gets hot, it still seems like he can really only, especially at that FanDuel price tag, he can really only like 6-7x it tops. And so on DK, where you get that 3-point bonus and he's cheaper, I like it better. But on FanDuel, he's just a bit too expensive for me.
I want to talk back to that point a little bit because he has been rebounding the ball since he's been in Indiana. I don't know, it's just because of the minutes, the increase that he's had. He's rebounding the ball pretty decently well. I'm surprised, and he has been getting some assists, which is another thing I've been surprised at. So I think he's a phenomenal play, but I get also why you want to play more on DK versus
This feels like Kyle Kuzma-esque for me, where it's like I see that price jump, and then you look at the numbers, and it's like, yeah, okay, I should like him, but no, this is still a guy that I don't like at that price. And then I regret it afterwards. Exactly. So yeah, we should probably listen to Dre on this one.
Just want to note the game log minutes for Buddy: 38, 43, 39, 37, 40, and 40. He's projected for 38 minutes tonight. I know there's a little bit of a sticker shock, but like, he's playing more minutes. I know Indiana is a mess minutes for some players, not for Buddy, who's projected for 38, and not for Halliburton, who's projected for 38. We are giving 20 minutes to Sykes and 18 to Washington, and there's stone min essentially. But I don't know if I get there because they essentially will eat at each other, and I can't see one of them really separating themselves. Do you guys, is that worth a dart? More of a DK thing, I suppose, for Sykes or Washington, Andre, or is that being too ambitious here?
For me, I don't think this worth a dart, not on this slate.
No, me neither.
I think that's where I'm at also. Like, we're projecting Sykes for 18 fantasy points at 3K, and I don't even know how useful that may or may not be. And that I don't know if he's going to play 20 minutes. I have no clue. All right. You got anything else here, Andre, or shall we move on?
We can move on.
All right. Toronto, Brooklyn, 217. And I hope you're not going to this game, Andre. This is so rough.
I'm not today.
If you had tickets to this one, I don't know what they're going for in the market, but probably They're tough to sell. 217.5 is the total here. Toronto versus Brooklyn. Of course, Brooklyn without Kyrie, no Durant just yet. Coming back soon, though, like you said, I think maybe tomorrow, at some point. He's going to be playing soon enough, hopefully. FEV is the big one here. Freddie VanVleet is questionable. Of course, we know OG Anunoby is out as well for Toronto. They did sign DJ Wilson for what's that is worth. But TJ, I'll throw it to you as far as this because, tight rotations for Nurse. Since coming back from the break, Toronto's gotten walloped in back-to-back games. I don't know if that's a correlation, causation, small sample size, but maybe all these minutes are getting caught up with them. I have no idea. Freddie's playing through an injury as well. Well, he has been. He's not 100%. They play the same exact team tomorrow night on a back-to-back in Toronto. I suspect he plays one of these two games, maybe not both, but hopefully we know if he plays tonight or not. Did you have a thought? Do you have a lean, TJ, as far as Freddie playing tonight?
After last game, I don't think we can have any type of lean when he went from unlikely to play to starting and just messed up with everybody's things. So I think this is just going to have to be a wait and see. It's tough with these teams. It's like, yes, you could say the minutes are catching up with them, but at the same time, their guys off the bench are Boucher, Flynn, Precious Achiuwa, Thad Young. Like their bench sucks right now. Yeah. And so their starters can keep them in games and then it just goes haywire. And if their starters aren't playing at the top of their game, it's over. And so if VanVleet is out, Trent becomes one of my favorite plays on the slate. He goes into point guard mode and just becomes incredibly aggressive. And we've seen times this season where they're missing lots of bodies and he just goes absolutely nuclear. And so Trent would be one of my favorite plays on the slate if VanVleet's out. If he's in, I don't really love getting to this team very much. The one place I'd probably take a shot would be at a cheap Thad Young, maybe.
Interesting. How many minutes do you think Young gets tonight?
20-ish.
Yeah.
The thing with these guys is like, it's always going to be Birch, Boucher, Flynn, and Achiuwa. It's going to be whichever one is playing the best that game is going to get the extended run. And so the reason why you can always take shots on Thad is because he's a better point per minute producer than any of those guys other than Boucher. But they don't really want to play Boucher that often just because he's a terrible, terrible defender despite how many shots he blocks. And so they acquired Young for a reason. He's the best fantasy point per minute out of him, Birch, and Achiuwa. I don't mind taking shots there, but it's not great. It's just you can take a shot.
Do you think there's a chance Precious starts tonight in lieu of Birch? And if that happens, do we care?
I don't think so. And I wouldn't care either. He's priced up. His last game was a game that was a bit of an outlier. And if people are going to chase that, that's great, but I'm not going to.
I guess it's more of a DK question.
He's DK 3.6. Yeah. He starts okay. There. Yeah.
I should have specified. He's 4.9 on FanDuel and he's 3.6 on DK. Yeah.
If he starts, you can definitely take shots. The problem is that he's only center eligible. And so the opportunity cost is a little bit higher where Thad you can get in the power forward. But yeah, if he starts, he's definitely in play.
Andre, what do you think of Toronto? I guess you can, if you want to run both scenarios, like if in, if out FEV.
Yeah. First of all, if Toronto, if he's in, I still think you can play these Toronto guys, especially at low ownership. Obviously, most probably going to be Scotty Barnes for good reason. We know why. He's cheap, but he also think it's going to be. He's also already getting a big rebounding bump and I think a little bit of a usage bump with the fact of OG being out. So even now more if Fred VanVleet's out, he's going to have to be the third primary scorer. And it was good to see in that Charlotte game that when he played was able to still play in a blowout run with them. It's just been weird the first two games back with him. I watched more so the Charlotte game. They were trapping the guards a lot harder, pretty much putting them in a corner when they were coming up to try to screen and roll a lot. So I would tend to hope. I don't think the Nets are going to do that. That's not the Nets game from just watching all their games. And I don't think Steve Nash is built like that to do that, honestly. But I do like getting to a guy like Gary Trent the most, as TJ's mentioned before, either with Fred in or out, just because of the simple fact of I think he's going to have to. I wrote it up in Scores and Odds, actually. This is my free pick I'm going to give you guys on it. I like his over on points regardless today, whether Fred's in or out. I think that he's gonna I think he's gonna just take over the scoring load a little bit more. And the Nets are in the bottom half of the league and ranked wise as far as in shooting guard defense. So that plays into Gary Trent's hands better. So I like the spot for him. I think he's probably my second best play on the Toronto side of the game. And then obviously Scotty Barnes, I think, is the first. And you can go with a guy like Siakam, who's a pure tournament play, who should have a good game in this matchup, but he's been iffy this whole season. So I would strictly use him for tournaments. But my primary guys would be Trent and Barnes, maybe a little bit of Fred if he's in, but not really going to go there much.
You mentioned scores and odds. It reminded me we should tell the people about Grant's Action Lounge in the Discord channel. Didn't say hello to YouTube. What's up, YouTube? Hit that like button. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications. Participate in the conversation. We'll have plenty of time, end of show, to answer whatever questions that may be on your brain. I will ask these two fine gentlemen. We'll have the conversation about what we have not covered. If you want us to specifically dive into such situations or 2v2s or anything that's, you're sitting there, you're making your lineups, you're kind of debating, we're happy to give our opinion on. Do give specifics as far as if it's for FanDuel or DraftKings or cash. Tournaments, single entry stuff, that does help. Go ahead and ask your questions in the Discord channel that's free. Rotogrinders.com/Discord in the live stream chat channel. Just above us is Grant's Action Lounge, also in the Discord, also free. His show, I was on it earlier today. It's 2:00 on the East Coast, Monday through Friday, talking about player props, bets, things like that. And he actually drops all of his bets, every one of his bets he puts right there in the Discord channel. So you guys can take a look at that. He's been plus EV for a while now. Again, that's the Action Lounge in the Discord channel, rotogrinders.com/Discord. And right below that, the live stream chat channel. Enjoy it. Jump in. We're going to have plenty of time for more conversation. Anything else of the Brooklyn side? Yeah, this is always fun. Andre, we have that Drummond game. This is what we're paying for. I think he's a great tournament play as always. I think he can go out there and play terrible, and the LMA can just throw him off the court. And I don't know what's going to happen. What scenario is going to play out tonight?
Yeah, I do like Drummond a lot tonight. There's a rebounding upside for him in this game is massive, and the steals and the blocks I think a little bit too. So he's someone I definitely have interest in getting to for sure. Even LaMarcus I still have interest in getting to because they're going to need some scoring without Kyrie and Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons on this game in this game. So LaMarcus is someone else I don't mind having to a little bit. I know there's a lot of people that's talking about Bruce Brown. I get it because the past couple of games he's played 30 minutes. I don't think he's a good option today, but I just don't know how much I'm going to get to him. I'll probably be under the field. Someone's going to be over the field on him. But yeah, a guy that to me, I would be targeting is maybe like LaMarcus and Drummond. You can sprinkle a little bit of Seth Curry in some tournaments. I do also like getting a little bit of James Johnson here as well.
Yeah, Brown's a guy that he had some DNP CDs earlier in the year. And whenever any of these guys aren't starting for Brooklyn, you get nervous. But it's been pretty steady of late, 32, 35, 35. Obviously, we know how limited they are. They're without their big three, nobody available. So, and the price is up a little bit, but I'm okay with Brown, but I don't feel great to have a ton of them. Just he's not somebody you feel comfortable with to be over if the rest of the field's on him. I'll throw it to you, TJ. What's your thought here as far as the Brooklyn pieces? Patty Mills, by the way, 1 point in each of his last two games. He's been a disaster. And that's the only way he gets there, basically, is by points. Curry's,
and I think he might be my favorite play on the team.
Yeah, well, variance. I guess you're betting on variance, huh?
Yeah, and Kyrie played in the last game, and so that influenced his minutes heavily. But we're projecting him for 33 minutes, sub 5% ownership, while Bruce Brown and Seth Curry are both either going to be pushing 20 or over 20 and more expensive. I'll take the guy who's $1,000 cheaper and $1,500 cheaper on FanDuel, and way less owned with the same upside as the other two. So I like going to him. I wish this was a slate that I could be playing 150 lineups, because where I'm struggling with one is there's so many game environments that I like.
Yeah.
But Curry, Brown, or Mills, one of them will go off. One of them will have a very good game. We just don't know which one. And so these are guys I really like getting to in tournaments. Drummond's price on DK is even better than it is on FanDuel. James Johnson is an interesting guy to take some shots on. Revenge narrative. He used to play for the Raptors. I think he used to play for basically everybody, but
yeah.
I guess the Brooklyn also does have Dragic back now, and so that could eat into Mills a little bit, but these are definitely guys that I like taking lots of shots on in tournaments, and I would just rather err on the side of the lower owned, cheaper ones as opposed to the higher owned, more expensive ones.
By the way, not similar to Dragic, Fultz expected to play 16 to 20 minutes off the bench per the coach tonight for Orlando. So somebody's going to take a hit for sure. It's hard to sort of gauge exactly who that's going to be. Probably a couple somebodies. Yeah, Johnson's 4-1 on DK, 4-5 on FanDuel. Just kind of pulling up our ownership stuff as well. And they're just sort of like filler stuff that makes stuff work. We're seeing Brown at 27% on DK, LMA at 19%, Johnson at 19% as well, Curry at 18, Drummond at less than 10. And that's really interesting for tournaments. And it's hard to gauge because a lot of it's just like performance based. And you never really know how good or bad Drummond's going to be from play to play. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's always an interesting tournament play. There's room for him playing 27, 28, 30 minutes, and also room for him playing 20 or 18. And Mills didn't just forget how to shoot. I still trust he knows how to shoot the basketball. He's been over the last couple of games, but yeah, I think it's interesting just because people are probably game log watching, never again, that kind of thing. Andre, what else do we have in this game that's worth focusing on, or shall we move on?
I think we can move on. It's like there was one guy. Well, you mentioned Patty Mills, so that was the guy who I thought about, like saying tournaments. Like if you're entering a lot of lineups, he's someone you want to get involved, mention for sure. And those bigs, make sure if you're playing the Toronto bigs, play one of them at a time. Like make a rule where you just play only one of them. Don't play like two of them on the same team at the same time. That's all I would do with that.
All right, Andre, our Heat, they're at home tonight versus the Bulls. 222.5 is the total. Miami is a 4.5-point favorite. Vuk is likely to play. He's probable with his ankle. Lowry is out. Caleb Martin is questionable. Andre, is this finally the matchup that's going to subdue DeMar DeRozan and not let him score at least 31 points in his last 9 or 10 games? Is that what it is? 31? I think it is.
I hope so. I really do. It was not really. It was really disappointing to see the fact that San Antonio made that a game and a high scoring game at that with Miami. Their defense has not been great as of late, to say the least. But I think this is a game that you can't get back on track. I do definitely love the Miami side. I love a guy like Jimmy Butler tonight. Just because he got to handle the ball, it's going to be pretty much point Jimmy all day. And another guy that should be honestly higher on than what he is. I know when we focus on playing Gabe Vincent, but Tyler Hero, the man is back to playing how he was playing when he was before he was hurt, and when he was like beginning of the year was 6th man of the year in the conversation for him, which he still is, and he's playing around 30 minutes a night. And he probably might get a little bit more run. They're going to need him out there. And to me, the way the Texas Chicago Bulls is going through the guard. So Tyler Hero, obviously you play Gabe Vincent, but he's not a high usage as far as scoring option wise. And Jimmy Butler. Those are my 3 guys I'm playing for Miami today. Mainly, like I said, I'm going to be overexposed to Tyler. I'm going to be definitely higher on Jimmy Butler. But I love the spot for Tyler for sure. I think he can have a massive game here, and especially at low ownership.
Yeah, so talking about Vincent, because like you said, not a big usage guy, 18%, where we're assuming he's going to draw the start in the absence of Lowry. Martin also questionable too. That can only help if he doesn't play. He's 3.6 on DK, 3.9 on FanDuel. He just kind of makes stuff work. Yeah. Not a great fantasy point meta player, 0.8, which is fine. You know, probably not the guy that's going to break you if you don't play him. Like he's not going to put up like a 40 spot. He's going to be popular is kind of what I'm getting at. And like, how do you feel about embracing the 32% ownership of Gabe Vincent on DK?
I'd see the things I'd like it. And even in his last 2 games he's played against Chicago, he's played well. He's gotten to 30 fantasy points against Chicago the first 2 times. So I don't mind playing him. It's just I'm gonna try to be at the field, not a little bit, maybe a little bit above, but definitely at the field for sure. It's just makes it tough to decide how much do I really want to eat into the chalk of it, because I think there's a lot of good guards out there that you want to play today, but he makes everything work at his price being 3.9K on FanDuel and 3.6K on DK. It's hard to pass up a guy with that price. And if he gives you, and the risk reward thing is if he gives you that upside, and he's going to be playing around 30 minutes a night as well. And if he gives you 30 fantasy points, you're going to probably need him, especially more so in DK. With that type of score. So I would be more inclined to play him. And like I said, be at the field, not a little bit above.
I think it's more of a DK thing. I mean, not that you can't play him on FanDuel, but I think he's much more useful there. TJ, your thoughts as far as the Miami side? And, especially if Martin's out, I don't think it's completely nuts to play Strus in tournaments on DK. It's still a minimum 3K. Like, he's a guy that can get going, and if he's hot, they'll leave him out there, just a 3-point shooter.
Yeah, I agree with that if Martin's out. And if Martin is out, I'll feel a little bit better about Vincent, but I'm still at the point where for tournaments, I'd rather just pay up a little bit more at 6 times less the ownership for a guy like Patty Mills, who probably has, even though his floor is a lower or the same, his ceiling is probably even higher than Vincent's is. So I don't mind that, but like the more we go on the slate, and we haven't even talked about the Charlotte and Milwaukee game yet, but the more comfortable I am fading Giannis. Like Jimmy Butler without Lowry, we're going to get a lot of point Butler, and he's one of my favorite spend up options on the slate, and he's barely a spend up in comparison to some of these other guys. So I like him a lot, and yeah, I think Harrell's a great tournament play as well.
If you're playing Butler, do you feel obligated to run it back with any of the Bulls? Because the way I'm seeing it, none of the Chicago Bulls are priorities for me. And yes, I know DeRozan's been out of his mind, but I don't think I'm playing any Bulls as of right now. That's the plan, at least.
Yeah, I agree. Miami's a good defensive team. This is one of the lower totals. Levine's still at only 8,000 on FanDuel. He's cheaper there than he is on DK. I think if you're playing lots of lineups, big field contests, you can take a shot, but definitely no priorities by any means.
Yeah, Andre, your thoughts as far as Chicago? I know you're always talking about DeRozan. You're talking about him being MVP like a month ago before this run. But DFS, we care about tonight and tonight only. Tonight, that's a big old price. I just don't see myself getting there. I understand why people will play him. Are you playing DeRozan?
I actually just looked at my player pool. I have no one on Chicago. I'm kind of surprised, but it's just, to me, it's just hard to see how he gets there tonight. I think this is the night though that he does. Like I said, I hope it's the night that he ends his 30-game streak. But last time he played them, he had 28, so it was pretty close. So, but his price is too expensive on this slate to me to play. The guy I would just probably be more inclined to play if anyone from Chicago would be a guy like Zach LaVine, who is like you said, 8K in this matchup. Should be able to have a good game for his price point. And everyone's gonna be focusing on DeMar, which is fine, but I think Zach is probably the more better play here. I'll probably, matter of fact, now I'm talking myself into it. I'm gonna probably play a little bit of Zach LaVine, but not a lot.
I wish that Bam price was a little bit cheaper. 9.9 on FanDuel is just hard to justify. Like
I was gonna say before we moved on to the next game, Bam on DK is a solid tournament play just because he's been absolutely balling lately.
Yeah, and he's not going to be on there either. 8.8, which is still, we've paid on D7-ish, mid-7s this year. The matchup against Chicago is fine, obviously, but 9.9 on FanDuel is just tough. But 8.8, I'm okay with it on DK. I probably wouldn't play him alongside Butler. I don't think I would do that just because I think they're both fine individually, but they're two big prices, and there's other guys on Miami. Like I like Hero as well too, that Andre was throwing out there. He's been pretty hot of late. He's kind of scoring dependent, but he's a bench player, but he plays starters minutes. Once he's in the game, he basically doesn't come out. You have a thought on Bam, Andre?
Yeah, I would love to get to Bam today, but I just can't. He's just too expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of do we think Martin's playing, or it's just I don't have a good read on that.
Yeah, I don't either. I really don't. I've been trying to dig in to see if they had any shoot around or anything today to find out, but I don't really honestly have a good read on that one.
And if he doesn't play, like, is there anything that significantly changes?
Maybe just it may not really. It's gonna make me just love Tyler more, and maybe you can get to a guy like Duncan Robinson if you want, but I personally, the way he's been playing lately has not been, inspirational to play him. So to say
That's a nice way of putting it. It's very diplomatic. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Sacramento and OKC. 227.5 is the total here. OKC is a 5-point dog versus the Kings. Sacramento is going to be without Rashawn Holmes is questionable, but I assume he's not going to play. OKC without Giddey, without Dort, Muscala, Jerome, JRE, and we've kind of hinted at SGA several times throughout the show. You guys mentioned scores and odds. I wrote them up on Friday, had a good day with them, wrote them up again today. We're going to go with SGA once again. I'll pull up the usage numbers in a minute, but I mean, the people should be aware. What do you have here, TJ, as far as Gilgeous-Alexander? Not hiding in the slate at all. Good matchup against Sacramento as well. Gets all the usage in the world with nobody else standing on that OKC side. Well, man will shoot a little bit, but otherwise, how much you're prioritizing SGA?
Big time. It's just like I said with the last game with Jimmy Butler, it's looking more and more easy to fade Giannis as thing goes on, because if as it stands, he's going to be like Giannis is the most expensive pay-up option on the slate. And I can't help but prioritize Jimmy Butler and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and maybe even Tyrese Halliburton ahead of him right now. So yeah, I like Shai a lot. The only when he's in the positions like this, the only thing that really ever holds them back is when they get blown out and they're playing a team that plays absolutely no defense. So yeah, I love him. High priority.
Yeah. The weird thing is, and we'll talk about like Ja and Murray in a second, but when you're kind of shopping around as far as like ownership stuff, it looks like he's going to be, we're seeing, SGA on DK at 32% ownership, Murray at 6%, Ja at 15%. They're a little bit more, but basically the same price. So I understand if you want to do something different in tournaments and get away from it, but like the usage is like 39% or so with all those guys off the court. It's completely insane here against Sacramento. And now I'm pulling up the FanDuel stuff. I'm trying to see our FanDuel ownership as far as the premier guards tonight. Is I think it mirrors it. Yeah, SGA at 42%. And then we kind of work our way down. Murray at 30%. John Morant is, I think he's much less than that, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to find it and I'm scrolling. I'll throw it to you, Andre. What do you do with SGA? And like, feel free to compare him against like Murray and Ja. And do you think he outscores those guys?
Ooh, Murray and Ja. Oh gosh.
I didn't see the DeJounte Murray got a price drop.
Yeah, I'm like, to outscore them is. Sorry, I'm really thinking about this one. That's a good question. It's gonna be hard to really outscore both of them, honestly. His price is cheaper, and the thing that it's my problem with Shai. Like, and hear me on this. Because I know he's a great play, but there's always a game where he just always. I feel like he sometimes just doesn't put his all into it. Sometimes, and there's games where he just doesn't play to his potential. There's been plenty of games where he's been great in excellent matchups where he has not performed how he should have performed and exceeded the expectations. So that kind of makes me iffy on him. It really does, just a little bit. But this game environment is such a good one. It's one of the higher totals on the slate. He should be able to get there and perform really well. It's hard to go against it. Like, he's not a lock he's not a lock by any means, but I think you have to be at the field with him. If you're playing one lineup, I would play him, because without Giddey, without Dort, he has to do everything. It's no exception to that. So, and it's a easier matchup than when he played against Phoenix. So, which is the only game where he did not perform that well against since the All-Star break's been back, and without those two. So, and that's because they're an elite defensive team. So, any team that's not elite defensively. He should be able to have his way against. It's just I would just be cautious of everything a little bit, but I say you have to play at the field with him for sure.
The Kings had the league's second worst offensive rating. They allow the most points in the paint in the league, and no player drives more than SGA. Like, it just feels like such a good matchup here. And like, as far as the usage stuff without Dort and Giddey, it's 37%. If you kick off, you get a smaller sample size. You kick off Muscala and Jerome, it's at 39%. It's just completely silly. Like, I'm not certain he's going to make his shots, but I feel really, really confident he's going to have like an incredible opportunity to score a bunch of points tonight. TJ, you like any of his teammates? Anybody in OKC that we're excited about besides SGA?
Nope, not really. That's about it.
Yeah.
On FanDuel, I'm not going to be playing a single other person. Checking the DK prices right now.
Man, maybe.
Oh, it's too expensive.
No, there's just other people I like better. Yeah. Nope, I'm good.
Yeah, well, I mean, man on FanDuel is 7-2. Like, that's absurd. He's 5-4 on DK, which I think is playable, but yeah.
Like, you can have him in your pool in DK if you're playing lots of lineups, but definitely not a priority by any means.
You feel the same, Andre? It sounds like nobody else in OKC?
No one else in OKC.
What about the Sacramento side?
Blown away by DeJounte Murray's FanDuel price, which I'm sure we'll get to, but I'm taken aback. He missed one game for rest and they dropped his price $1,000.
Yeah, well, they called it. They gave him a fake. Pop gave everybody like a fake injury, and like there was a clear rest. Whatever. Yeah, I assume he's fine, right? Like there's like 3 or 4 guys that sat with like different body parts. 9-7 on FanDuel. We'll talk about that in a second. Who wants to talk about the Kings? Who wants the Kings?
I can start off, and just looking at these guys to start with, Sabonis has been playing very well since he got there, but he's just not somebody I can prioritize on this slate. I'd rather go to maybe some of the cheap guys. Jeremy Lamb, I like quite a bit for Sacramento to take a shot on. But again, these aren't my favorite guys, and I'm looking forward to talking about some of the next games. But this has a high total, but it's really just a couple guys that I really like. Fox is okay, but I think my favorite play for Sacramento is Jeremy Lamb.
Yeah, I don't mind him as the guy that kind of makes stuff work. He's pretty cheap on DK as well, and he's a guy that I always thought was pretty good, just never really gets an opportunity. I think he's been fragile over the years too, so teams never really pushed him as far as minutes. But he's not priced for a guy that's going to need to play 30 minutes anyway. Andre, your thoughts as far as Sacramento? Obviously, Sabonis, of course, a revenge game too, right? Sabonis is interesting, and Fox, but beyond that, I can't get much else.
I love Sabonis today. Like, I don't know who has a better matchup than Sabonis besides maybe Giannis, but like this front court has no way to stop him. No, like Sabonis should get a triple double tonight. He should get this easily tonight. I might have to write that up at the Scores Nods after the show, but he should dominate tonight. It should be an easy 25 and 15 game for him. It's just a fantastic spot for him. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate tonight. I do like De'Aaron Fox getting to him as well. I like Harrison Barnes too. He's been, like I said, he's been getting adjusted now to playing with Sabonis. And I think that this is a spot against OKC where he can thrive in and have a fantastic game against them as well. So he's someone else I have interest in. And Jeremy Lamb at 4,300 with him playing now like 20. What he played 29 minutes the last game. I like that a lot. That was very encouraging to see. So it makes me want to definitely roster him for sure and some GPPs.
I noticed this, like digging this up today. OKC is like sneaky good defensively. Last 15 games, they're the second best defense in basketball according to defensive rating. Right? I mean, Boston's in their own like tier. Then they're right in front of Miami and Cleveland and Denver and Philly. And on the season, I think they're like 10th or 11th or something like that. They're not as horrible as we want them to be. I think is that fair to say?
It's fair to say for the guards, but we have to understand there's no one there. There is nobody there. That's just probably with Dort. That's probably with Giddey. It's probably with Shai. It's with all of them there. They're not there, and I just don't see how there's any way they can stop the massacre that Domantas Sabonis is about to do to them. I just can't see it.
I like pairing Sabonis with SGA in a lineup. I think that's a pretty obvious pairing. All right, let's move on. Two more games that are really appealing from a total perspective. Charlotte, Milwaukee, 238.5 is the total. Milwaukee is a 10-point favorite. I believe Charlotte is in the midst of a 3rd and 4. I know they played yesterday. I think it's his 3rd and 4. And it's a back-to-back, and it's a road game. So, like, traditionally.
And they went to and they lost in overtime to the Pistons last night.
Yeah. So, and I always say this about Charlotte, like, this is the way they play. Like, they can beat anybody by 20 and they can lose to anybody by 20. Yep. Just kind of the way they play. And they've actually beaten Milwaukee twice this year, I believe. Just to kind of speak into that thought process. Yeah, I'll throw it to you, TJ. I know you want to talk about San Antonio, Memphis. We'll talk about that in a second. But we've kind of hinted at Giannis a couple of times throughout the show. But yeah, Giannis is a big decision. And I think you said you're playing one lineup. So I mean, not going to put you in the spot, but are you leaning one way or the other? In Giannis, out Giannis, or we don't know just yet?
So as of right now, I'm leaning no Giannis in my one lineup. And the reason for that is I just think this is going to be a 30-point blowout in this one. Charlotte's one of those teams that, like you said, they can beat anybody or they can lose to anybody by 20. And it's because they run at a super fast pace and they jack up a bunch of threes. And when you've played 3 games in 4 nights and you're on a road trip and you just lost in overtime, that doesn't mesh really well with shooting jump shots and running. And so I think Milwaukee's going to blow these guys out. I don't mind. You can still play Giannis anyways, because if they win by 20-30, there's a good chance he had 30, 10, and 10 at half. So I'm definitely not telling anybody to not play Giannis, but for cash, I still think you try and jam him in. But for me, for my one tournament lineup tonight, I'm leaning towards going without him.
Yeah, if you're not playing Giannis for those reasons, I assume you're playing nobody on Charlotte as well.
Correct, yeah. And if you do like this game more than that, and you do think that Charlotte's keeping it close, especially looking at a lot of these FanDuel prices, LaMelo Ball's still super cheap. Miles Bridges has been playing a lot better lately. Terry Rozier has shown he can smash that price tag. It's not a crazy idea to run it back with Middleton and Holiday on the other side instead of Giannis, because those guys are just mid 7K price tags right now. And Giannis is priced up to where he should be. Those guys are probably still about $500, $600, $700 cheaper than they should be. So I don't mind those two, especially Holiday. But in my one lineup, I'm currently leaning on fading this game and kind of thinking Milwaukee blows them out.
Yeah, it's that old, like they're going to blow them out, but it's because Giannis goes nuts in 3/4. Yeah, but the ceiling gets hit, obviously. So, hey, let me ask you, Andre. We have Giannis projected for 63 and a hook as far as fantasy points tonight and DK tonight. The next guy is SGA at 52, right? So it's an 11 point, 10.5, whatever it is. You got the field tonight. You have Giannis. Who scores the most points tonight?
What's Giannis's price on DK?
Giannis's price is 12K. I'm just talking like actual fantasy points, though, not even price.
Oh,
do you think the field beats Giannis? Somebody from the field beats him?
Oh, as far as the fantasy point wise?
Yeah, raw points.
No, I don't think so.
Interesting. And do you think that still means you have to have him?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because like the pricing of other guys on this slate is like we mentioned before, we got Jimmy Butler whose price on DK, he's priced at what, 8-9. That's too cheap for the role he's in with Kyle Lowry being out, and 8-6 on FanDuel. It to me, it's like getting to the mid ranges. To me, the mid range is pretty strong today, or has a lot of guys that have the high upside today. So it makes it kind of hard to want to play Giannis. Granted, you can play Giannis and he can obviously destroy a slate, and we know that he's done it before, and it's the highest one on the slate, and it makes it hard to not want to go with him. But like just in the games that he's played against them this year, we understand that the usage has been high. He got 53 fantasy points one game, 67 the other game, and then the last game that he played against him, he had 64. So those numbers don't scare me enough to know that he's going to beat me, because I'm like, to me, if they were saying like, hey, he's guaranteed getting like 70, okay, I understand that. But and you have like I said, the mid tier who get you 50 and above, I think that I'm fine with fading Giannis today as well, or not being at least underweight on him, not fading him completely, and just going with this mid tier, which is really strong, and seeing how I can go with the bounce approach and getting a lot of guys that could give me that 50-point upside and get close to that 60-point that Giannis can give.
It's a really, really weird slate because there are not many spend up options like Giannis. There's no Embiid, there's no Jokic, there's no Luka, but yet Giannis could score 70 points and not be optimal tonight.
Yeah,
because Jimmy Butler, who's $3,000 cheaper, could put up 60. Shai, who's $2,000 cheaper, could put up 60. You got Halliburton, you got Sabonis, you got DeJounte. Like these guys, the price difference is so aggressive, especially like Giannis is more expensive on DK, but the price gaps are still just as big as on FanDuel because you got guys like Murray who are priced $1,100 cheaper than they are on DK. So I really feel like Giannis could put up a 70 piece and not be optimal tonight, which feels crazy to say. And I might feel different about how much I want to play him if he wasn't the second highest owned player on the slate. If it was, we're getting low owned Giannis and why isn't anybody playing Giannis, that'd be a different thing. But if we can get different from by not playing him, it just seems like the way to go tonight.
You also might be relying on players. If you're playing Giannis, you might be relying on playing Jeremy Lamb and Gabe Vincent, and James Johnson, Kevin Love possibly on FanDuel, because it's not so much Giannis. It's like a 3v3. You know, it's not just a 1v1, obviously. And like you said, even if Giannis does great, the guys that make Giannis work have some kind of unappealing floors. I did run 100 optimals on both FanDuel and DK. And I capped it at 70%. Giannis landed in 42% on DK, so basically split. And he landed in my cap, 71% on FanDuel for what it's worth. But like what you're laying out there as well, TJ, is an interesting thought. Andre, you got anything else in this game before we talk about is there anything else we didn't really kind of break down the Charlotte guys, but it feels like a game stack or nothing, I guess.
Well, yeah, like honestly, like I like the only player I like from Charlotte is going to be LaMelo Ball. That's the only person I have in my player pool today. And on the Milwaukee side, I think you could get to the secondary pieces like Middleton, Portis, or Drew Holiday today. I think they're all fine, and to me, should probably be played more than Giannis, in my opinion.
And I think it's important to reiterate before we go away from it. If I'm building cash games, I'm still playing Giannis tonight. And if I'm building 150 tournament lineups, I would not be not playing Giannis. He's projected for 30%, 38% owned on FanDuel. I would probably be over the field if I was playing 150 tonight. And if the lineups I am playing, if I'm playing any Charlotte guys, I'm making sure I'm running it back with Milwaukee ones. But in my one tournament lineup tonight, I'm thinking of that'll be a way to get different than the field is not playing them.
And I should say, I said like stack or nothing. Like I'm okay playing Giannis like a la carte and just Giannis, nobody else. I'm fine with that too, which I may do. We'll see. All right, another awesome game. San Antonio, Memphis, 238 is the total. Memphis is a 9-point favorite here. San Antonio, we talked about all those whatever injuries those guys had before. We're assuming they were just essentially resting. We're expecting everybody back for San Antonio. At least the ones that matter, right? Murray, Pirtle, Big Body Johnson. McDermott is questionable. Langford is questionable for what it's worth. Memphis does have Brandon Clark questionable with an eye. Concher is out. Brooks is still out. TJ, you've been wanting to talk about this game for a while now. It seems like, especially Murray. Go for it. It's all yours.
Using FanDuel scoring, how many games this year, not counting games he's left early for injury, which there was twice, how many games this year do you think DeJounte Murray has scored less than 40 points? FanDuel points, not total points.
Andre,
the Spurs have played 60 games. How many do you think he's scored under 40?
10.
Dean?
I will say 2.
2? That's just ridiculous, and you're ruining my fun stat. It's 7. And
Oh,
so this is a guy that should be aggressively over 10K. This is a guy that should be closer to 11K than he should be 10K. And he's there on DK, and that's all fine and dandy. I'm fine with not getting heavy on him there. But on FanDuel, even in a not great matchup, I liked Halliburton earlier on in the show, but after seeing this price drop for DeJounte Murray, my three that I'm planning on building around are Murray, Shai, and Jimmy Butler tonight. And that's the thing with Murray, is he just does absolutely everything in this offense, and his floor is 5x. If he plays this whole game and they keep it moderately close, his floor is 5x.
If you're playing Murray, though, are you tempted to kind of like force a jaw on the other side to run it back? That's a fun 1-2 in the game.
I don't have to, just like you can if you want to get different, but I don't think so, just because he's priced up for it. If you in a vacuum could Ja outscore Shai, yes, it's possible, but Shai's still cheaper. Giannis is only 1,400 more than him. All of a sudden, it's not as aggressive of a price increase. So I personally feel fine running it without. Steven Adams has been wildly good lately.
It's ridiculous.
I'm not playing him, but I'm just saying, throwing that out there. If you're playing 150, maybe put in 3 or 4 to 5 Steven Adams teams in there, because he's been wild lately. Jaren Jackson Jr. has been struggling a bit more, but still, he's not very expensive, and we know the ceiling he can have. Bane, all these guys are okay. Bane's fine if they land in a lineup. You're not against it, but personally, none of these Memphis guys I love. And on the San Antonio side, I don't love any of them either, other than DeJounte Murray, who I love.
If you guys want to get your question in now, will be the time to do so. Producer Eli is going to be pulling them. Devin's probably lurking out there as well. Drop your question in the Discord channel, rotogrinders.com/Discord, and we'll do our best to answer as many as possible before we step aside and make way for crunch time. Andre, your thoughts on this game?
All right, so DeJounte Murray is the only guy I can see myself playing for San Antonio. Top play, one of the top plays on the slate for me, for sure. On the Memphis side, Ja Morant, I love him. I love him today. Another top play, and just like I said, the mid range is so strong, and even him at 10K, I think he's just a phenomenal play. And this is my sleeper play of the day. Like, I'm going to roster so much of him, because it seems to be a trend here that every time he plays San Antonio, he has a he smashes and that has a good game against him, and that is going to be Jaren Jackson. He has, every time he's played, he has a good game against San Antonio. I don't know if they just can't contain him or what it is. He was in my winning lineup a couple years ago where I won, where I took down a nice hefty payday for 200K on FanDuel. So I think Jaren Jackson is, to me, one of the most sneakiest plays on the slate, and I'm going to roster a lot of them.
You went 200K?
I agree completely.
Yeah, right. The week right after I won the Millie.
Oh wow!
making my hot streak look small.
How much you bet, TJ?
Yeah, I mean, hey, I had like almost a 300k NFL season this year.
Oh,
hey, that's pretty good. More than mine.
More than mine.
That's why I can't wait to get out of this house with all these boxes in the background. I got to set up in my new shop, get a nice new fantasy comic book office.
Nice.
Oh, that's got to be the dream for you, right?
Oh, it's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be beautiful. I'll have my recording booth and then just all my sports stuff and all my comic book stuff behind it. It's gonna be beautiful.
What kind of art do you have? Do you have like a comic book stuff on the wall, or is there anything like your favorite piece?
I got a bunch of comics that I'm gonna put up. Like, my favorite one that I have is probably a Spider-Man: The Death of Gwen Stacy, like in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he doesn't catch his girlfriend and she dies. I have that comic. It's 10 years old. But Jaren Jackson Jr. I agree with Andre. Especially if you're playing lots of lineups, he's a guy that people don't love getting to if they're playing one, just because he's so volatile. And you look at his game log: 25, 49, 18, 40, 40, and then he's back in the teens. So he's got a wildly high ceiling and a wildly high floor, but he's low owned. At least I think he's going to be low owned. It's not really pulling up for me right now. And so when he's going to be chalky, I kind of like going away from him, but when he's not, I like getting to him. And he's got a crazy high ceiling. I don't think I'll get to him in my one lineup, but if I'm playing lots, I'd probably want to be overweight.
Triple J, we're looking at 10, 11% on FanDuel as of right now. And we're looking at, I think, even less. Yeah, 5% on DK. Hey, are we still doing
I'd want to double that.
Are we still doing the superhero save of the day shtick for you? Is that still a thing? Did we make one up today or no?
I didn't know I was on the show today, and so we didn't get a graphic made up, but it's DeJounte Murray. How can it not be? He's going to come in and save your lineups when your back's against the wall. It doesn't even really work for today's slate just because they're all lumped together, and so we can't really pick a late game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm DeJounte. He's not exactly sneaky by any means, but he's one of the top 3 guys that I'm going to build my lineup around. I'm hoping Van Vliet doesn't play tonight. And so I'm going to get Trent in. Gives me the 4 guys I want to play, and there's still $5K for the rest of my lineup. So feeling good.
Cavs starting lineup, Goodwin, Okoro, Markkanen, Mobley, Allen, no surprises there. Kevin Durant out at least 2 more games. So Caleb Martin available to play. That's kind of a bummer, I think. Slight tick to Gabe Vincent, but he should still be fine. And I was thinking Strus could be kind of sort of someone ambitious, but that, it's a slight hit there as well. And he's already kind of goofy enough as is. Lance Stevenson, doubtful tonight, so not officially ruled out. Duarte is probable. Do want to give a shout out to D-Rock 1838 lurking in the Discord channel. Producer Devin is always kind of lurking, and he's dropping a 1 week free RG Premium to D-Rock. I assume he contacted you. That's not just for basketball. It's, college basketball, NBA, football when it's in season. Well, it won't be in season a week, but you know what I mean? Baseball at some point in theory. Well, you can play some MMA and golf. How about that? All the premium content. You can check out Crunch Time, which is right around the corner. If you guys are Rotogrinders.com premium members, that starts at 20 after, takes you guys straight up to lock. All right. Anything else of note here, Andre, or shall we dive into the questions that we've compiled throughout the show?
Let's get into the questions. I see Yappy Cappy looked into the stats too. Let's keep this all a secret because I don't want to be too high on tonight.
Anyone like Dragic, the Dragon? Like, what did he play? 15 minutes or so? Like, that's really ambitious. Former teammate at Nash. Does anybody like Goran Dragic? Like, you're not going to
first game right? Back against the Raptors, just torches them.
Yeah, not tonight.
Did Dean? What did I think of Harry Potter? I lost a bet with Grant, and I have to watch Harry Potter. And I had it open at HBO Max, and I stared at it, and I got distracted, and I did not watch it. But I will watch it tonight. I'm not happy about it. I'm going in with no expectations, but I've never seen it before, and Grant's punishing me. We'll see. I'll report back tomorrow. How about that?
I love Harry Potter.
Yeah,
I don't love the author, but I love Harry Potter.
Andre, you like Harry Potter?
Oh, I love it, especially the last ones. They were really good. We just got reported that Fred VanVleet's not likely to play today. Let's tread lightly with that one, but hopefully he doesn't play.
We got that over the weekend, right? Where he did like the hokey pokey, whatever you want to call it. But
hoodwinked, yes.
I just like this question. It says, "Tell me about Lindy Waters." I just love that the way it's phrased. He's got an incredible name. Andre, we're not playing. I don't think I'm playing Lindy Waters. Are you playing Lindy Waters?
No.
Can you make a sales pitch there, TJ, for Lindy, or no?
No.
Andre, how likely does Gabe Vincent hit his ceiling here?
His ceiling? I mean, what is his ceiling? Like 30? Like
34? Yeah, maybe.
I say, if honestly, I'd give it about a 30% chance.
You have a thought there, TJ, as far as Gabe Vincent?
To me, he's bad chalk for me, especially with Martin in. He's not one of the cheaper guys that I like. I'd rather go to a guy like Mills, or I'd rather go to a guy like Jeremy Lamb. In terms of cheapies, and the pay up guys that I like are all in that point guard, shooting guard position anyways. So he is not my favorite tonight. No.
Any interest in Trey Mann? They're talking specifically on DK, like on FanDuel where he's kind of outpriced. We sort of touched on him. You guys think Man is interesting for tournaments? DK specifically, where I believe he's like 5'2" or 5'3", 5'4". I know y'all. Andre, you like
If I
5'4"?
if I land on it, I might not change my lineup, but I'm not targeting it.
That's kind of where I'm at, but I probably, I'm not thrilled about it. I think he's okay, but
He's not about playable at all.
yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at as well. I see Jonas is at 23% as far as his ownership. Is that where it's at right now? Let's see if we do a refresh.
On DK, I think so, yeah.
I think it's actually lower than that on DK. That might have went down.
Last I saw was 20 on DK and 32 on FanDuel, I think.
21.54%. And
38 on FanDuel.
wait. Oh, no, wait. Did I say FanDuel or DK? Did I butcher that? DK. We're talking DK.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 21. Yeah, because like we talked about, like there's a meaningful difference in really good plays and all the guys that are around 9K or so. That's
the thing. Like if he wasn't garnering the ownership because of this spread or something like that, then he'd be a lot more interesting. But he's still chalky, and it's the biggest spread on the slate. So I don't know. It's a no Giannis night for me, I think.
Andre, DK tournaments, you got to play Brissett or big body Kelvin Johnson.
Oh, I haven't looked into Brissett or them. I haven't looked into either one of those guys today at all. But just because of the matchup, I'm probably more likely to go with Brissett. I think it's going to be a little bit of a better pace up spot. Well, actually, not even a little bit better pace up spot, but I think more opportunities will be presented to Brissett than Kelvin.
What if McDermott doesn't play? Does that make? Slightly make Johnson a little better?
Yeah, if McDermott doesn't play, then that makes Johnson better. For sure.
McDermott probably like affects a guy like KBD a little bit more, but like he's got more room to grow, right?
Yes.
All right. Other questions we have here. Well, they're asking about 5% Kelvin on DK. I'm okay with that. FanDuel tournament, TJ, Markkanen or KBD, Bates Diop. And again, I think KBD is somewhat tied to the health of McDermott personally.
It is Markkanen, but I'm going to see if I can give a better alternative. I would rather go Scotty Barnes if you don't have him yet.
Yeah, I like Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent a lot now.
Scotty Barnes, Franz Wagner, Chris Duarte. I like all of those guys in the small forward spot more.
TJ, your favorite Raptor, now that we're under the assumption, we're nothing official, under the assumption that FEV is out.
Gary Trent. I would be borderline locking him in if I was playing 150 tonight.
Wow.
I love Gary Trent.
Andre?
Yeah, Gary Trent is my favorite, followed by Scotty Barnes at number 2. I like them even with Fred VanVleet playing, but now that he's unlikely to play, and I think Nick Nurse is really going to hold him out because I think last game they probably were fighting to play more. I do like that spot for him for sure.
Who do I play at center on FanDuel and cash games? I think it's one of the Cleveland guys. I think it's Jared Allen. I don't hate Love at center. Like it's a weird center position today where no Jokic, no Embiid. Cat's just more of a tournament guy. Bamba, if you're feeling really ambitious, I'm not sure if I am. And Sabonis is fine, but I think he's probably more of a tournament guy as well. That's kind of what I would answer as far as cash, but I don't think there's a clear and obvious play. I would say fill that out last.
I think the correct answer is Jared Allen, but I'm with you. Fill it out last because it's just kind of ugly tonight. So I don't mind going with the punt like Bamba or Love.
I really like Allen tonight. I'm afraid I'm not going to have enough. Hey, so a pivot away from Goodwin, Man. Do we like Man as a pivot away? If people want to make Man happen, yeah, I guess that's okay. Like certainly,
it's a good pivot because Man is less chalky Goodwin. Neither of them are very good. Both of them are only playing because there's injuries on I guess Cleveland is a very good team. They just have lots of injuries. But yeah, it's a good pivot because neither of them are very good and they're the same price. But sorry, I keep stealing all these questions here. So Dre, you hop in.
You're fine.
You're fine. Trust me, I'm literally doing some research right now.
Well, give me this. We got to step aside and go, but I do want to ask Andre, thoughts on Kyle Anderson He's another one of those cheapies that kind of make stuff work and the floor is rough. I do think he'd be better if Clark doesn't play, which we don't know what the situation is there.
I don't see. Yeah, if he doesn't play, yeah, but even then, I'm still iffy on his minutes because they always find another Zeke. Yeah, they always are iffy on his minutes. So that's one thing that scares me about it for sure. That Young is an interesting play now too. That we're not going to get that much Fred or Chris Boucher. They're both around the same price. I think you can play one of those two guys because Chris Boucher I think had a good game against them. That's the last time they played.
All right, two quick ones. TJ, could you play more than one buck in a lineup like ABC and Middleton or Drew and Middleton?
Only if I'm running it back with LaMelo Ball.
And Andre, DK tournaments, you like Portis or Drummond? Portis is 6'9", Drummond is 6'1". If you had to run one of those two out there in a tournament, who would it be?
I'm getting a lot of Drummond now because I want more Drummond now. So yeah, Drummond.
All right, y'all. Appreciate you watching. Do stay tuned for Crunch Time. If you're on Rotogrinders.com, you have premium. Hit that like button on YouTube. Do subscribe. Do turn on notifications. If you join the Discord channel out of nowhere, you get yourself 1 week free of RG Premium. It just sort of happens several times throughout the week. Producer Devin was lurking, hooked up D-Rock. All right, enjoy the games tonight. Hopefully we set it up nicely for y'all. Everybody crush it. That was Andre. That was TJ. That was producer Eli. Devin was lurking as well. It was basketball. I was Dean. We're out of here.